Lowest reading that we've seen in just over 2 years.
I wouldn't quibble with the idea that inflation has peaked, but I also think that we're a long way away from the Fed's target of 2%.
I don't know how many times they've been concerned about how many treasuries were flooding the market, and the market gobbled them up.
There are some who are concerned that we have to issue so much in the near term and what that'll mean. And then these larger issues that Sarah discussed with Ray Dalio yesterday about whether there will be longer term enough buyers for U.S. treasuries.
Are we in a debt crisis or are we headed for one?
Hello and welcome back to my channel. Are you wondering what's going on with the economy right now? Why are we facing so many challenges and uncertainties? Some people may worry about what this means for interest rates. In today's video, Ray Dalio has shared his viewpoint on the debt crisis and U.S. economy. To know more details, stay tuned till the end of the video. And if you want to stay up to date with the latest crypto insights, markets, and economy, make sure to hit that subscribe button and the bell icon. All right, are you ready? Let's dive right in.
Three big things are happening in our lifetimes that never happened before. Let me say that again. Three things that surprise us that haven't happened in our lifetimes, but happened many times through history, are the creation of an enormous amount of debt and debt monetization. The second is the internal conflict, the large wealth gaps and the internal conflict that makes the politics of populism and so on. And the third is the great power conflict, comparable powers, the United States and China, and the possibilities of war. But back to your question in terms of the mechanics, there are very basic, simple things. That there is a debt cycle. There are short debt cycles. We're used to those. They last on average about 7 years, give or take about 3. And you have recession and interest rates are low, inflation is low, and the Federal Reserve becomes stimulative, and then you have growth. You have non-inflationary growth, and you have inflationary growth, and they tighten monetary policy, and then you have the slow up or the recession that follows until the cycle participates. It happens that way. We've had 12 of those. We're in the 13th. We're about halfway through that cycle. We're at the point where interest rates have to rise.
Ray Dalio highlights that three things are happening right now that you have never seen before in your life. First up, we have an enormous amount of debt being created and monetized. It's like we're swimming in a sea of debt, and it's affecting our entire economy. This is something that has happened in the past, but never on this scale in our lifetimes. Next, we've got this internal conflict brewing due to massive wealth gaps. The rich are getting richer while the rest of us struggle, and it's fueling the rise of populism and causing all sorts of political turmoil. And third, we have potential conflicts between global superpowers that could have serious consequences for all of us. These things are not random. According to Ray Dalio, we are currently in the 13th debt cycle, halfway through it. And guess what? When we reach this stage, it's inevitable that interest rates will have to go up. Let's get into the next clip to hear more from Ray Dalio.
In my opinion, we are at the beginning of a very classic late big cycle debt crisis when the supply-demand gap, when you're producing too much debt and you have also a shortage of buyers. What's happening now as we have to sell all this debt is we then do have enough buyers. There are changes now in terms of the quantities in the world that are being held by large investors around the world that have lost money in these treasury bonds and so on. And then there are geopolitical changes which are having an effect. Some cases, some countries are worried about sanctions, and then there's this geopolitical shift. So when I look at the supply-demand issue, there's a supply-demand issue for that debt. There's a lot of debt. It has to be bought, has to have a high enough interest rate. So a crisis, that's, if we continue down this path in terms of what's likely over the next, 5 and 10 years, then you reach the point that balancing act becomes very difficult. We're right at the brink of starting to find out that. The amount of selling of government debt collapsed, right? We didn't issue government debt. And now we're going to issue a lot of government debt. And so when we look at the buyers, there appears to be a shortage, a significant shortage of the buyers for that government debt. But we're now at the brink of being able to see what that supply-demand picture looks like as we go over the next year and two.
According to Ray Dalio, we're witnessing the beginning stages of a classic late-cycle debt crisis, and it's like a ticking time bomb with potential consequences for our economies. Why is this happening? There are many reasons. There's a massive supply-demand gap. It's like a Black Friday sale where there's an abundance of goods, but not enough buyers to snatch them up. Well, replace those goods with excessive debt, and you've got yourself a recipe for trouble. When the supply-demand balance is disrupted, it sends shockwaves through the economy. Think of it as a game of tug-of-war, but instead of just two teams, it involves the entire financial system. Hold on tight, because geopolitics is also playing a major role in this unfolding drama. Before jumping ahead in the video, be sure to like and share.
The things that you see happen over and over again when you look at history is when you have a financial not good situation. At the same time as you have large wealth gaps, you start to see the emergence of populism, and we see extremism in both of the political parties. Okay, we see that split. A populist is an individual or a leader or a political person who will win at all cost, that the rules of the game don't as much matter. And so we're in the January 6th type of incident and so on is very interesting. The political system in terms of primaries and the parties tends to create that sort of polarity. I think that I think it's very clear that there is only one good outcome, if we can, and that's a strong bipartisan middle, because either of the extremes is not going to be able to be dominant. The small right, or even the small left, and as a result, we're seeing a fragmentation. Geographically, you're seeing people move to different areas, not just because of taxes, but of differences in values and so on. And so you're seeing this separation. I think over the next 2 years, the real question is, can we have a strong bipartisan middle, or are we going to have that kind of fragmentation? We have three things aligning that are concerning. On this short-term debt cycle, I call it, the 7-year cycle, we're about halfway through. In other words, interest rates are now at a level that they're probably going to stay at, but they're probably not going to rise much from here, and there's tightness. And the consequences of that are going to be a weaker economy going forward. It doesn't have to be a big downturn because of the household sector, but it is a balance sheet kind of recession. And I think things are going to get worse in the economy. There's a financial issue at the same time as you have this internal conflict. So I think that that's going to make for a risky situation, particularly then when we deal with the third major influence, which is this conflict, this geopolitical conflict in the world, particularly related to China, Russia, and the implications that has on supply chains, production, and the like.
In the shorter cycle of interest rates, the economy is expected to slow down. It may not be a big crash, but more like a squeeze. According to Ray Dalio, the U.S. economy will suffer more because of the money problems and the internal conflicts. This is a dangerous mix, especially when we think about the third big thing, conflicts with other countries, especially China and Russia. It's like a roller coaster ride, where we experienced a balance sheet recession rather than a full-blown downturn. Do you agree with Ray Dalio's viewpoint on the economy? Is a weaker economy on the horizon? Are we going to see more crises in the market? What's your outlook for the U.S. economy and market? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below. And don't forget to subscribe to my channel for more updates on crypto and economy. Also, be sure to give a big thumbs up to this video. Thanks for watching, and see you next time. Adios.